So at least I can go to the emergency clean, huh? Relatively. I say relatively because I didn't do laundry and I only have dirty clothes to put on. At least my body and hair is clean. Anyway, to further address, what Marion wrote, things that took completely out of context. It was only at the very end, okay? At the very end, when the cat was out of the bag. No, it had nothing to do with me, my mom confessed to me. And of course I was understandably upset that she had acquiesced and had lied to me per Marion's orders to do so, okay? About the settlement money. But regardless, Mama used to talk about all these things she wanted to do for me, but she knew she couldn't do because no matter how rich my mother is, when she's under Marion's control, she's not allowed. Mama's not allowed to spend one goddamn penny on her own daughter, okay? Apart from, a small amount for birthday or Christmas or something. It's really quite sickening. But in any case, that was reality. So for Marion to take out of context the end, okay, because even after I knew how much money my mom had, she wasn't buying anything for me. She snuck, she shouldn't even have to do that, on the sly, and bought me some clothes and at Macy's and bought herself clothes. And like I said, I got huge discounts. She did that, and there was no way Marion would know that, oh my God, the horror, my mother had purchased some clothes for me. My mother, who was rich compared to me, Unbelievable. Anyway, and then that was before she was in the hospital all those months. And then afterwards, she was always talking about how she wanted to reimburse me for that vacuum I had purchased for her when I didn't know how much money she actually had, back when it was all secret, right? So that would be considered, so she got me an extravagant birthday present. And the only reason I had to talk her into it is because she said she was going to do it, and then she was afraid because of Marion, okay? And that's not right. It's not right. It's not right when she has tons and tons of money, you know what I mean? That she's not allowed to do anything for her own child, Like I said in the other video, we're not talking about $5,000 to take a trip to Hawaii or $10,000 for a boob job, The same with the damn vet bill. The entire time I was here, I paid every fucking penny of Omar's vet bills. I even paid for Angel's Heart Guard Plus and Frontline Plus. I paid for everything except for Angel's actual vet bill. That was it. Okay? So again, we're going back to the same thing. My mother's made to feel like she's poor when she's not poor. We have to keep remembering that. There's not just that settlement money, there's also the 401k in a few years, a couple years, whatever, okay? She's not poor. And there are parents who do a shitload for their kids. So it was completely out of context for Marion to write that I'm committing elder abuse and that I talked my mother into getting me contacts even though she said no and paying for... She's taken it out of context. She's conveniently not negating the fact that my mom did want to do those things, and if my mom felt like her money was her own, she'd do a hell of a lot more. Hell of a lot more than pay for my contact lens exam and a year's worth of contacts, or pay a couple $100 for Omar's vet bill, okay? Believe me, she would do a hell of a lot more than that. She wanted to do that, and then she was afraid because of Marion. That's all. That's all it was. And then she was afraid when she defied Marion, you know, that she wouldn't have any money to pay her bills, and Marion would stop paying her bills or whatnot if there was a lawsuit against Marion, believe me. So Marion can write all she wants. It's all out of context. My mom even said it when she's like, you paid for, what is she talking about? You paid for everything, including like close to $500 to do Elmer's teeth. I'm like, I know, Mom. She's just trying to turn everything around and make it like I've perpetrated elder abuse upon you and whatnot. It's such a joke. Such a joke. Completely taken out of context. And just like she said in the message that I said and I did out here, you know. Basically, my aunt is throwing back in my mom's face all the secrets my mom's finding out via my YouTube channel. Well, I slipped further and further into depression. You know, it's just like she, said, even your own daughter thinks you shouldn't handle your finances. Yeah, but I didn't say it should be you. And it doesn't mean I don't think she can't pay her own bills. And it doesn't mean I think she should be treated like such a fucking whatever that you take her credit card away and just expect her to beg you for any fucking thing that she wants, you know? Put her in such a position that's just sick. It's sick. Any way you look at it, it's sick. So now she's like, she's your little girl. Like, she's just a little kid. She no longer has the credit card where she can buy. Now you have to, again, dole out the money, you know, for her food. Dole out her food money. And then if she wants anything extra, she'll have to beg you, ask you for it. And it's not begging, but it's demeaning, you know. You weren't going to let her have a free, even her social worker, and that woman was my advocate, or supposed to be my advocate, was basically my advocate up to a point. And, you know, and even they thought it was horrible that you weren't going to have, my mom wasn't allowed to have a penny of her own, any penny cash. And in the end, oh, she can have $25 a month, and that's it, you know. It's demeaning for my mother, especially when my mother's fucking rich. I mean, not millionaire rich, but rich enough that she shouldn't have to live like that. So Auntie can, you know, delude herself all she wants to. I don't even care. Because in the end, my mother will stand by me against Auntie in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Oh. And just as an aside, I got to know my cousin again, who I hadn't seen in over 20 years. But that wasn't true of my mother. That's another thing. Auntie wrote in there. My mother did see my cousin. She saw her a couple years ago. The cousin and family stayed here. Okay, so that was bullshit. But anyway, my cousin's extremely intelligent, deep, aware. I don't know where Marion gets off deeming my cousin mentally ill. It's like my cousin sarcastically said to me, anybody Marion doesn't like is mentally ill. So I have this to say about that. My cousin didn't seem mentally ill to me. And who is Marion to diagnose anybody anyway? But that aside, I would really like to see what would happen in our family if the perfect children of my aunt who died last summer of pancreatic cancer, if God forbid, remember, my mom, my cousin's mom, and the other one who never had kids were cursed. with severe mental illness, okay? The aunt who died last summer went unscathed. Doesn't mean, and as far as I know, so did her children. Extremely well adjusted and yada yada whatever. Doesn't mean it can't skip a couple generations. You can develop mental illness when it doesn't run in your family at all, and it does run in our family. So, I wonder what would happen if the perfect children of my aunt who died last summer of pancreatic cancer, if one of their children, oh God forbid, developed some kind of mental illness, huh? That's why I decided to have nothing to do with the second generation mentally ill members of my family, I know. And you and your kids are so perfect, aren't you, Auntie? Just like the kids of my aunt who died last summer. Oh, their kids were so perfect. All I have to say is that it can skip a couple generations. Let's see what happens if one of the perfect children winds up having a not-so-perfect child as an adult. You know what I mean? If this child, if any of those kids develop mental illness as an adult or something. Because it can happen to anybody, people. It can fucking happen to anybody. And the same goes if any of Auntie's kids ever have kids who have mental illness. That's all I have to say about that. I really want to clean my mother's house. I know it's a lot for her. Everyone else living here, not that I'm appreciated or anything, not that, in the end, like I said, it didn't matter what I did for my mother. I was living here, I cleaned all the time, I cooked all the time, I helped my mom develop, lose 30 pounds, I helped her pick out kick-ass clothes at fantastic bargains, because I found the bargains. I help with the dogs. I got stimulating movies for us to watch all the time. Redbox and a subscription to Netflix that I had for a long time. And I provided companionship. What do they do for a broken or really sprained toe? Do they put a little cast on it? I don't know, I can't remember from 5 years ago. I wish I had some clean clothes, but I don't. I don't have anything clean. I really should. I guess while I'm at the hospital, I could ask him about this mole, huh? I can point out that I've paid attention to it, and it's definitely changed. It's turning black, but it's not flat, it's raised. But it's definitely, it's a little tiny mole, it's mutating, it's turning darker. I can ask them. While I'm there, right? Might as well ask them. Well, not force him out. Let me hear any messages or emails that Auntie sends or leaves or whatnot. My mom wants to share the stuff with me. She's in a lawsuit against this woman, against her sister. She has no reason to try to protect her or whatnot. She has no inclination to. Neither my mother nor I deny any of the good things Marion did for my mother in the past. It doesn't mean in the present Marion gets to have complete and utter control over my mother. Period. One doesn't equate to the other. That's the bottom line. That's what she's not getting. That's what Auntie isn't getting, that one basic fact. I read that to my cousin, one of her responses. But she's gonna know all the fantastical things my mother believed, including at one point that I was a princess from another galaxy. She wrote this awesome poem. The reason I've always been so depressed and felt like an outsider and whatnot is because I was really a princess from another galaxy, and that there'll be a prince will be by my side, and I'll be happy and I'll scrap. So. And my cousin did say when I read her, she's like, you didn't really believe you were the reincarnation of Marilyn Monroe, did you? What was I supposed to say to that? I just said, I brushed it aside, like it was fantasy. I could have said, do you know all the things my mother believed when she was sick? You know what I mean? It's only dangerous to have those kind of fantasies or whatnot if you, like, you know, like you start thinking you can fly and then you jump off a building, okay? But reincarnation and who's the reincarnation of who or whatnot, the whole concept of that, along with the whole concept of God or heaven or hell or an afterlife or purgatory. I mean, it's all unprovable, see? It's all unprovable. So in the end, who the fuck cares? Seriously, who cares? Who the fuck cares? You know? It's just vanity, and Donald wrote it on my website, not me, you know. And he wrote it as a joke. He certainly didn't write it because he believed I was the reincarnation of Bro. He just knew as, you know, that I had a lot in common with her, including having a mother who was schizophrenic since I was a little girl, you know, so he wrote it as a joke, you know. Who cares, you know. There's worse things than to worry about than that. And in the end, like I said, as long as you're not hurting anybody, who cares? What kind of fantasy you have or whatnot. That's why my mom said, so what, to Marion. And Marion called her up, you're done. And my mom's like, so. A lot of people think that. When I was joking around about that, my friend Doug, remember the one who wrote Desert Rose? I told you about, the musician who I collaborated, or I was supposed to collaborate with, but I did become good friends with, and that's in my 20s. When I was joking around about that, he said, I think he said something like, I'm probably the reincarnation of Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, that's what he said, something like that. And if reincarnation was the truth, I could be the reincarnation of Marilyn Monroe, simply because I was born after she died. See, I could never be the reincarnation of Marilyn Monroe if I was born before she died, right? But I wasn't. I was born 6 years after. So, give or take, I was born after she died. Everything with ISIS, people being beheaded, and just everything and anything. In the end, who the fuck cares about somebody's fantasy? It was a long time ago when I started to believe. Remember when I first encountered Donald, I believed he had special powers. I believed he was some kind of vampire. I have a vivid imagination. Remember, I was creative as a little girl, extremely so. And I can sit here and tell you I did, 100%. So, who cares if I did or did not believe I was the reincarnation of Marilyn Monroe? Like I said, I was born after she died, so... And again, I believe Donald had special powers. Did. That's crazy, Laurie, I know. And then when I started believing that Jack Kruger knew who I was, I started believing he had special powers. But remember, I don't go around saying I have special powers or believing I have special powers. But these men, I did. First Donald and then Jack Kruger. I believe they were like beings, like believe they had special powers. Obviously, I slipped totally into some kind of weird craziness. But I'm not in it now. I'm severely depressed, but my depression is situational. And that kind of depression, the woman in the shelter said the same thing about her last time. That kind of depression, you're even less likely to be helped by psych meds. This is not where somebody just becomes depressed one day. This is post-traumatic stress disorder. This is being treated like shit by my... This is the rapes I've experienced. This is the childhood abuse and yada yada whatever, all culminating into now. this one moment in time, space. But yeah, since reincarnation is like an abstract thing, so whether or not I believed him I was reincarnation of Marilyn Monroe, who the fuck cares, right? That's at least abstract. Me 100% believing that Donald had special powers, that he was some kind of vampire, some kind of like mind-reading type being, and then later believing the same thing about Jack Croker. No, that was just, insanity. But it happened. I have to accept it. It's not happening now. And I can honestly say with 100% certainty, I don't believe it would ever happen again. I'm a completely different breed of animal than I was in the past. But I can't deny my past, pretend it never happened. Anyone, my mother could do that in regards to herself, That's just how it is. Just like all these people who attempt suicide but fail, and then decide that they're going to stay alive, they still have to live with the fact that they did attempt suicide, And that's just how it is. It's just a failed suicide attempt. They have to live with that. Well, I have to live with the fact that I believe Donald was some kind of vampire and had special powers, and years later, that was 2001, and then 8 years later, I believe the same thing of Jack Croker. Hence the time I was talking to him out loud in embarrassing hopes that she called the cops on me. But I talked very rationally to the cops, and I hadn't been like screaming or anything. It's just hopes, paranoid, whatnot, I talked very rationally to them. I said I'm a writer, I'm creative, and blah, blah, whatever. And in the end, she was desperately trying to get them to, even by telling them my mom's history, telling them about my messy room upstairs and all this crap. And in the end, they couldn't just take me away based on her word, and I was perfectly normal, perfectly fine. And that was that. And I can say all this stuff because it isn't happening now. Were it happening now, you think my mom could create this kind of video when she was in the grips of believing that I was an alien and she was going to hurt me? Because the voices in her head were telling me her to knock me out when I was 23. She chased me, and she didn't even behave like human. She was like some kind of animal clawing outside the barricaded door and whatnot. Obviously, I went crazy in 2009, but I had went through trauma after trauma, And my mind must have snapped, but it didn't snap as badly as my mother's mind has snapped on numerous occasions in her life, It snapped just enough to have me living in between insanity and sanity. And with that, gotta go, because I gotta check to see if my mom called or what's gonna happen. No matter what, we have to go to the hospital. I must come with me or I'll go by myself. I do have to go because I have to see. I have to see if it's sprained or if it's broken, and I have to find out what the instructions where it could heal the fastest, or maybe they put a little splint on it. I don't know. Because I cannot remember what they did. I experienced the same goddamn thing and did the same thing. Don't know if it's the same toe, don't know, whatever. I just know it's this bad. I've stubbed my bit. It's just if you stub your toe a certain way, you know. And it's not my big toe. I just twisted it, and it's stiff and swollen, and if it's not broken, it is severely sprained, and I can't walk on it. And with that, bye-bye. Can't put the sneaker on. Oh my God! I put the sock and the sneaker on and hobbled, even feeling it was all swollen. It was like throbbing, you know, not severe pain. It's just, but I can't walk on it, and I at least almost went poo-poo relatively fast, but I had to hobble around in the yard. I can't wear any kind of sneaker or anything. You know, I don't know. That means I can't go out in public unless I get something that I can wear, like a slipper thing or something. I have insurance, so I'm gonna go to the hospital. I mean, makes sense, right? Find out what actually happened to me and proceed from there.